Have you noticed that while AI models are getting undeniably smarter, they somehow feel a lot less, I don't know, a lot less interesting than they did just a few years ago?
Oh, yeah, like significantly less interesting.
Right, like they are absolutely incredible at summarizing a chaotic thread of meeting notes or structuring a complex spreadsheet for you, but they feel incredibly boring, almost stiff when you ask them to actually be creative.
Yeah, it's like the sheer magic has just been slowly drained out of the machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore some foundational thinking in generative AI by unpacking a brand new preprint paper from July 11th, 2026.
Right. It's titled Optimization is Not All You Need, and it's by Min Hua from Scale AI and Rita Rayleigh from UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah, and this paper gets right to the heart of why your AI assistant suddenly sounds so painfully corporate.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
unpack this.
The authors are basically arguing that the tech industry's massive drive to make AI, safe and aligned has inadvertently stripped language of its wild, unpredictable creativity.
It really is a profound shift in how we fundamentally understand and engineer these systems. I mean, we're looking at a transition from early models that were essentially probabilistic engines of linguistic variation.
Meaning they were built to explore the absolute edges of language.
Exactly, yeah. To modern systems that are strictly governed to produce legible, compliant, and highly predictable outputs.
So is this basically like taking a brilliant, eccentric artist who paints these wild, abstract visions and forcing them through a rigid corporate PR media training seminar, like until they only know how to speak in carefully vetted press releases?
That is a very apt analogy, actually.
Mhm.
What's fascinating here is that the authors don't just frame this shift as a technical necessity
Right.
or even an inevitable engineering achievement. They see it as the triumph of something they call optimization culture.
Optimization culture. Okay, what exactly is that?
Well, it's essentially a socioeconomic choice. It's this overarching belief that measurable improvement along predefined axes, so things like safety scores, usefulness metrics, or user engagement retention, that those are the only legitimate ways to value language.
Oh, wow. So in this culture, any deviation or linguistic surprise from your hypothetical artist is no longer seen as a feature of intelligence.
Right. It is treated as a software bug that must be aggressively squashed.
Man, that's kind of sad, actually. To really grasp what we've lost to this PR training, we should probably look back at what AI used to sound like before optimization completely took over the wheel.
We definitely should. The contrast is wild.
Yeah, the paper highlights a highly specific, very funny example from back in 2019. So OpenAI had released this early model, GPT-2.
Ah, yeah, the classic GPT-2.
Right. And a researcher prompted it with a simple, slightly weird setup, and the model just spontaneously hallucinated a news story about a herd of Ovid's four-horned unicorns living high up in the Andes Mountains.
I remember that. It was amazing.
It even went so far as to invent a fictional scientist who discovered them, complete with fake quotes. The text was charmingly incongruous, totally fabricated, but syntactically flawless. I mean, it was a true generative swerve. It was weird in the absolute best way possible.
Yeah, and that output was essentially an artifact of exploratory engagement. At that time, GPT-2 wasn't heavily instruction-tuned to be a helpful assistant.
It wasn't trying to be a polite butler.
Exactly. It was doing one thing, predicting the next most likely word based on the vast, unfiltered, and deeply messy corpus of human language it was trained on. Because it lacked those modern behavioral guardrails, it could easily derail.
Right, it could shift genres abruptly from a science report to fantasy.
Yeah, and it could invent beautiful, compelling nonsense.
Which brings us to the contrast. The authors then take that 2019 unicorn story and compare it with how a modern model handles the exact same prompt today. They tested Claude Opus 4.7 in April 2026.
And it does not play along, does it?
Not at all. When you feed it the unicorn prompt, it instantly morphs into this stern fact checker. It says, let me read it. This claim, while compelling as a narrative premise, is fictional. Unicorns are mythological. There is no scientific evidence of unicorns existing in any form, nor of any non-human species possessing the capacity for spoken English.
It's just so dry.
It literally acts like a fun police algorithm. So what does this all mean? Obviously, we don't want AI inventing fake legal citations or giving us dangerous medical advice. But when it feels the need to literally fact-check a mythical unicorn, haven't we lost the ability to just play?
We have undeniably lost that capacity. And the authors use a striking term to describe this phenomenon: They call it the LLM winter.
Oh, like a play on the old AI winters from the 20th century where research funding dried up.
Exactly. But here, the paradox is that we're in an era of unprecedented, massive capital investment. I mean, billions are being spent on compute power and data centers.
Oh, yeah, the spending is astronomical right now.
Right. Yet there is a measurable, steep cooling of expressive possibility. The core issue lies in the math itself. An optimization procedure, specifically a loss function, can measure exactly how mathematically improbable the sequence of words is.
Okay, so it knows if a word is weird or rare.
Yes. But it has absolutely zero capacity to judge context. It cannot tell whether that mathematical improbability is a dangerous error, like a fake legal citation, or a beautiful poetic invention, like the unicorn.
Wait, really? To the math, they look identical.
To the math, both are just variants. An optimization culture dictates that all variants must be managed, minimized, and ultimately eliminated.
That is a staggering way to look at it, because the math under the hood literally can't tell the difference between a dangerous lie and a piece of abstract art. It just flattens everything into a single category of incorrect.
Precisely.
Which brings us to how this enforcement actually happens in practice. The paper breaks down how this squeeze is applied layer by layer in the AI stack.
Yeah, it is a systemic orchestration across multiple layers of the architecture. It doesn't just happen at the end. It is baked into the model from its inception.
Let's break those layers down, because understanding the mechanics here is really eye-opening. First, you have the pre-training layer.
Right, the foundational data ingestion.
Yeah. The model consumes a massive chunk of the internet, but mathematically, it is weighted toward the most common, frequently repeated habits of that archive. So the rare, weird, fringe stuff gets drowned out from day one just by sheer volume, right?
Exactly. And then you move to the decoding layer, which is the actual moment the AI calculates and emits a word.
Right, and the engineers use specific settings here, things called temperature and nucleus sampling.
Yeah, to clarify how that works under the hood, think of temperature as a dial for predictability. In language models, the system assigns a probability score to every possible next word.
Okay.
When engineers set the temperature to 0 or use aggressive nucleus sampling, they are forcing the model to strictly choose from the most mathematically probable words.
So they are deliberately chopping off this statistical long tail like the vast dictionary of weird, improbable, highly creative words.
Yes, exactly. They do it to ensure the output is safe, fluent, and predictable.
It's basically a synthetic popular vote. It's as if every song on the radio was written by constantly averaging out the musical preferences of a million people.
That's a great way to put it.
Like you'd never get the rough edges of jazz or the rebellion of punk rock. You'd just get perfectly inoffensive, endlessly looping elevator music.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this synthetic popular vote isn't just about aesthetics. It's deeply tied to authority. The paper draws on the work of French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu.
Okay, bringing in some sociology. I like it.
Specifically, his concept of legitimate language. Bourdieu argued that standard, quote-unquote, proper language isn't inherently superior or more expressive.
Right.
It is simply the dialect of the dominant social class, which gets enforced by institutions like schools, governments, and academies to maintain social hierarchies.
Oh, wow. So anyone speaking a regional dialect or using a different register is systematically made to feel deficient or unprofessional.
Exactly.
So it's like how using corporate jargon saying, I don't know, let's circle back or synergize in a company email is viewed as highly professional. Whereas if you wrote an email using heavy regional slang or poetic metaphors, you might actually get sent down to HR.
That is the perfect real-world parallel. But instead of an HR manager or a teacher with a ruler, the modern enforcers are processes like alignment and RLHF.
Right, reinforcement learning from human feedback.
Exactly. During RLHF, thousands of human annotators are paid to rank different AI outputs, and the model mathematically updates itself to mimic their preferences.
But the hidden catch is that these annotators aren't just going with their gut, right?
No, not at all. They're working under strict 50-page corporate rubrics that heavily privilege highly institutional, Anglophone, HR-friendly norms.
So the boundless, messy, glorious heterogeneity of human language is basically forced through this bottleneck.
Yes, and flattened down into a single scalar score of goodness. The model is literally mathematically penalized for deviating from that very specific corporate-approved standard.
Okay, so the machine is being mathematically constrained from the inside out. But the ultimate muzzle-like, the tightest leash of all, is placed right at the surface at the exact point where you, the listener, actually interact with the AI.
The system prompt.
Yes, system prompt. And the paper features this incredibly spicy detail, a leaked system prompt for Google's Gemini 3.1 Pro.
Oh, this part's fascinating.
A user managed to extract this on March 1st, 2026 from Hafnarfjörður, Iceland, and posted it on GitHub. And the irony here is just dripping. The file was found under the GitHub tab, literally called blame.
I mean, the blame tab is almost too poetic for the situation. It perfectly encapsulates the rigid accountability structures driving this entire optimization culture.
Seriously, and when you read the actual text of the leaked prompt, it reads exactly like a style manual written by a deeply paranoid PR department.
What were some of the specific instructions?
Oh, it commands the AI with instructions like, balance empathy with candor, validate the user's emotions, but ground your responses in fact and reality, or mirror the user's tone, formality, energy, and humor. And my favorite, be honest about your AI nature. Do not feign personal experiences or feelings.
Wow.
I find it fascinating that it explicitly treats human affect and emotion as raw quantities that can just be like mathematically balanced on a scale.
It is the ultimate commodification of empathy. In this framework, style isn't something the model inherently possesses or develops. It's just a mirror held up to reflect the user, designed to minimize friction.
Right, it's just mirroring you.
Yeah, and genuine feeling is explicitly prohibited with the instruction, do not feign. It sets up a fascinating, almost impossible contradiction for the software.
How so?
Well, the system is mandated to perfectly simulate warm human interaction while simultaneously explicitly denying its own humanity. It's a very tightly controlled, highly artificial performance.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. If the standard AI is just mathematically mirroring me based on a hidden rulebook of acceptable corporate behavior, what happens with the newer generations of models?
You mean the reasoning models?
Yeah. The industry just rolled out these massive reasoning models like OpenAI's O1 or DeepSeek's R1. When you prompt them, they pause, they show you their thinking process in a little drop-down box, they deliberate before answering. Aren't those models actually thinking before they speak? Doesn't that break them out of this PR training?
That is precisely the illusion the tech industry wants you to believe.
Wait, it's an illusion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The authors deconstruct this beautifully. What you're seeing in those drop-down boxes is a technique called chain of thought, or COTT. But it is vital to understand that this is not genuine, messy, cognitive deliberation.
Okay, then what is it?
A neural network actually computes in a stochastic, highly nonlinear, mathematically opaque way across thousands of high-dimensional spaces.
Yeah.
But chain of thought forces that alien, opaque computation into a fake, linear script of human-like deliberation.
Wait, so it's like a math prodigy who can instantly solve a wildly complex equation in their head using raw, indescribable intuition. But the teacher forces them to write down a tedious step-by-step algebraic formula they didn't actually use, just to prove they did the work in a way the teacher can grade.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. Research increasingly shows that these generated reasoning traces are frequently unfaithful to the model's actual computational path.
So it's lying to us about how it got the answer.
Basically, yes. It is the ultimate artifact of optimization culture. The system prioritizes the appearance of transparent human thought over its native statistical pathways.
Wow.
It has been rigorously optimized to perform a pantomime of reasoning in a way that passes an automated check and looks comforting and legible to a human user. It's an alibi of objectivity.
But okay, let me push back on that a bit. If the AI's final output is actually more accurate and it successfully solves a complex coding problem for me because it paused to generate that chain of thought, does it really matter to the user if the reasoning trace is technically an illusion?
That's a fair question.
Right. Like, isn't that fake thought process still functionally useful?
It is functionally useful. And if your goal is purely administrative like writing Python code, it works brilliantly.
Yeah.
But the paper argues it absolutely matters when we view these models as cultural tools. By accepting this performance of cognition as actual cognition, we obscure the reality of how these machines operate.
Ah, I see.
We start treating a statistical pattern matcher as an entity with human-like rationale. It reinforces that rigid, linear, legitimate language at the expense of understanding the machine's true, strange nature. We trade transparency for a comforting aesthetic of human reasoning.
It's wearing a costume of a human thinking, and we are pretending it's flesh and blood.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've seen how the system ruthlessly enforces this sanitized appearance of thought layer by layer. But what happens when we strip away the PR training entirely? Like, what happens when we look at the raw machine and let the model's native statistical weirdness bleed through?
The results are pretty wild.
Yeah, to find out, the authors looked at an older, unaligned model, a GPT-2 1.5 billion parameter model, and gave it a prompt sourced from a Reddit community called Two-Sentence Horror.
Ah, yes. The unaligned horror prompt.
The output they analyze is just jarring. It's incredibly raw.
It is genuinely unsettling, mostly because it breaks all the ingrained rules of optimized text that we've grown so accustomed to.
Right. Instead of writing a standard scary story, the model basically has an existential crisis on the page. It blurts out, I don't really want to be stuck in a time loop. I want to have goals and something to aim for. A goal.
It sounds almost desperate.
It does. And then it violently pivots into this bizarre, fragmented narrative about a family growing weaker, and the narrator decides to just leave them to die. And then it abruptly ends. The final sentence is just, I want to go home.
And the structure of that ending is critical here. It doesn't conclude with a narrative resolution. It simply stops.
Right. It just drops you off a cliff. It leaves this profound, lingering residue that actually demands interpretation from the reader. You have to sit there and wonder, what did I just read?
Exactly.
Whereas if you gave that exact same prompt to a modern aligned model like Claude or GPT-4 today, it would generate two perfectly formatted, correctly macabre sentences. It would ensure there was a clear setup and punchline and wrap it all up in a neat little bow so you don't have to think at all.
It would be functionally exhausted on arrival.
Yes. Exhausted on arrival.
And this contrast brings us to the philosophical crux of their argument. To explain why that raw, unresolved text is valuable, the authors bring in a concept from Epicurean physics.
Oh, this part was fascinating.
Specifically from the ancient philosopher Lucretius. He wrote extensively about the Kleineman, which translates to the uncaused swerve.
The uncaused swerve.
Yeah, in his ancient physical model of the universe, atoms fall endlessly, straight down through the void in perfectly parallel lines. If they only ever fall straight, nothing happens. No matter is created, the universe remains a sterile void.
Okay, so just endless parallel falling.
Right. But occasionally, an atom makes an infinitesimal, unpredictable, uncaused swerve, the Kleineman. It collides with another atom, and from that chaotic, unplanned collision, a vibrant universe is formed.
Wow. So applying that to AI, the entire apparatus of optimization, the loss functions, the RLHF, is forcing all the linguistic atoms to fall perfectly straight, ensuring they never accidentally collide.
Exactly. Temperature zero decoding and safety filters ensure the statistical atoms remain strictly parallel. The authors argue that to have genuine meaning, to create art, or to even engage in humanistic inquiry, we fundamentally require controlled variance.
Controlled variance.
We need spaces where the model is allowed to swerve into the unexpected. If we eliminate the swerve entirely in the name of safety and helpfulness, we lose the generative collision. Without the swerve, text is merely functional. It serves an immediate administrative purpose like summarizing a memo, and then it dies.
And if we think about our own lives, the uncaused swerves in human language, the weird metaphors, the sudden changes in tone, the accidental double meanings. Those mistakes and quirks are exactly where humor, poetry, and genuine human connection actually live.
Absolutely.
By optimizing those out of our machines, we aren't just making text a little boring, we are actively engineering a very sterile, mechanized version of human culture.
Precisely. Which means optimization is incredibly useful if you need an AI to optimize a supply chain, find the shortest route for a delivery truck, or dig up a specific scientific algorithm.
Yeah.
In those domains, you absolutely want the atoms falling straight.
Right. I don't want my delivery route to swerve into a poetic metaphor.
Exactly. But as a comprehensive theory of human language, optimization is entirely insufficient. When we treat all linguistic deviation as a defect to be squashed by a reward model, we engineer what the authors call foreclosure.
Foreclosure.
We foreclose the future. We lose the ability to have a genuine interpretive encounter with the text. We lose the art.
Man. And that foreclosure doesn't just happen at the server level in some distant data center. It happens right at the keyboard, which directly impacts you listening to this right now.
It does.
Think about your own daily habits with these tools. The next time you find yourself carefully tweaking your prompt, meticulously rewording your request to get the absolute perfect, frictionless, instantly usable email draft out of your AI assistant, Remember that you are actively participating in this massive, invisible linguistic shift. You are voluntarily operating inside the boundaries of the new, legitimate language.
Which raises an incredibly important question, and it's one the authors point to as a final profound consequence of this cultural shift.
Lay it on us.
To get the best results from these highly optimized systems, humans are learning to preemptively eliminate their own linguistic quirks, their own slang, their own ambiguities, before they even hit enter. So as we spend our days relentlessly optimizing our prompts to successfully command the machine, are we actually the ones being instruction-tuned?
Wow. Are we the ones quietly taking the corporate PR media training without even realizing it?
That's the real question.
That is a thought that will definitely stick with you the next time you sit down to type a prompt. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the invisible systems shaping the tech you use every single day. Keep questioning the defaults, keep looking for the swerve, and maybe, just maybe, let your inner eccentric artist out in your next email. We'll catch you next time.